through SIM or through any of these companies, if we impact, 1,000 children and one of those children is successful, the exponential growth of continuing that on can just grow enormous. And it changes our entire aspect of our culture, and it changes who we are tomorrow. It changes who we'll be generations from now.
Welcome to the Joint STEM Initiative podcast produced by Queen City Robotics Alliance. Now here's your host, Kaiwan Chen.
Hope you have heard our episode 8 about SIM. This time my guests are Elizabeth Austin and Chris Johnson to talk about the other part of SIM, the SIM STEM. SIM stands for Society for Information Management, and we have a very successful chapter here in Charlotte. In this episode, we will focus on their activity on promoting STEM. You will get to know what they do and their focus relates to STEM. Remember to subscribe to our podcast for our next episode, where we will cover more intimate details on their personal view on this community engagement and their career.
Hello, I'm Elizabeth Austin, and at this point, I am retired from a career perspective. I retired in February from Curvature. From a SIM perspective, I am a founding board member from the 2009 timeframe and also a past president. And for the last several years, I've been doing the STEM outreach and engaged Chris Johnson to join me about a year ago as I was anticipating my own transition. So happy to be here.
My name is Chris Johnson, and I've been a member of SIM for about 3 or 4 years now. As Elizabeth said, joined her about a year ago, partnering with the STEM community outreach work. I'm currently the director of cybersecurity at 3D Systems, which is a manufacturing of 3D printing company in Rock Hill, South Carolina. And prior to 3D Systems, I was at Curvature for 5 years as the director of IT risk management, and then spent 17 years in many different roles at Food Lion. And my last role was in IT as well.
SIM, or Society of Information Management, is a national organization of about 5,000 members, traditionally IT leadership roles, as well as supporting partners from the IT vendor community who function both as sponsors as well as members. The purpose of STEM within SIM, a lot of acronyms there, STEM being science, technology, engineering, and math. The purpose of our outreach focus, both locally as well as nationally, is ultimately to help generate IT talent. Every job that we know, whether it be fast food, all the way up through the most technical manufacturing or software development, requires some type of technology skill. And so the future, we've known for the last 15, 20 years that the future depends on having ample supply of technology talent. And so from a national as well as a Charlotte chapter perspective, we're focused on STEM outreach to start with K through 12 programs, support things like summer camps that are STEM oriented, provide scholarships in the community college and university level, all the way through adult training, because there's many different avenues by which we can generate IT talent. And so we have to be very diligent in that process so that we ensure that we've got the right level of talent. And from a Charlotte community perspective, it's our goal to help provide the type of technology talent that our business communities and nonprofits require.
Chris, you want to add on?
Sure. I would just add on, we live in an ever-changing world. It's changing constantly. And STEM programs are crucial to the continued growth and advancement of our future leaders. And the Charlotte chapter of STEM really prides itself on helping to drive and support STEM camps, scholarships, educational support for a large number of outreach programs. The past year, we've learned how to navigate through this pandemic, and we've each learned how to adjust into this brave new world, and STEM organizations have had to adjust as well. And I think it's great that Charlotte STEM can continue to support these companies as they're learning their new normal, just as we're learning our new normal as well. So I can talk briefly about the three focus areas that we look at from a sponsor or a donation recipient perspective. So one of those is educational scholarships. The second is STEM camps or STEAM camps, and the third is really adult education. Now, there's other things that kind of may not fall in one of those three areas, but those are really three primary areas. So we've done a lot with donating, raising funds to donate money for scholarships through UNCC, through Winthrop University, CPCC, a few others. We've done a lot with STEM camps, education camps, YMCA, and others, Queen City Robotics, and then adult education programs, kind of like the Google University, as well as a few others. And I know that over the past 10 years, since Elizabeth kind of started the STEM chapter here in Charlotte, or was the president, and then became involved in STEM. Over the past 10 years, Charlotte STEM's donated nearly $600,000 in support for local community outreach programs. And of that $600,000, in the past 5 years alone, STEM has donated $200,000 into STEM camps, $180,000 into college scholarships, and then over $100,000 into adult education. In addition to that, we also sometimes get involved with volunteer efforts, with some of the STEM camps, STEAM camp sessions, attending career fairs, partnering with some of our recipients on various efforts. While there's three areas of focus from a technological perspective, there's also three things that kind of is kind of our driving factors as well. And it's really about inspiration, motivation, and education. So how can we inspire people? How can we motivate people? How can we educate people in the STEM community?
Wow. Over $200,000 donation to STEAM education and the STEM camp on top of $180,000 scholarship. It is a significant donation to students for a professional society. Elizabeth followed up and explained there's an equal amount of focus from STEM to help student and adult, despite the amount of donation might seem different. There are reasons to support these actions because we would have a bigger impact by investing early. Many of these technical skills require a solid foundation on learning during young ages. Here's how she helped us to understand their reasoning.
If we don't help support interest and awareness of technology, and we don't start early, particularly with the young women, if we don't start early and then have programs that will retain, when they're in, let's say, K through 5th, it's fairly easy to, support their educational requirements because things are more directed. As they move into middle school or into high school, they have a lot more options, including some options that are not good for them nor good for society. And so to have strong programs that not only help teach, but also maintain that enthusiasm and maintain that awareness, that's, so I think there's a cultural value to making sure that, they're performing well in society. But there's also an aspect that you're not going to get them into the college and university programs or the community college programs if they don't have some level of understanding and foundation. I've worked when we didn't have laptops and we didn't have Wi-Fi and we didn't do things from home. So part of what we need to teach are conceptual, and creative thinking, intellectual curiosity, I don't think we can teach intellectual curiosity, but we certainly can identify it and help foster it. And most everything we do in life, the fact that we're able to be on this call today is due to technology. And so it's not so important as to which field or which aspect somebody is being trained in, but the fact that they're being trained conceptually to think. All too often, we have to be very good at troubleshooting, because it's great when it works, but there are those times when it doesn't work. And so that ability to think through how to, why is something not working, what's changed, so concepts like change management, concepts of, just critical thinking in general is, really kind of what we're trying to support and foster.
How about adult education?
And then, you look at some of the adult education, that's become, in today's economy, and we'll probably see more as we come post-COVID, folks, jobs are changing, companies are consolidating and so forth. And so folks need to have an opportunity if their particular industry is no longer hiring and employing, then they need to have an opportunity to retool and move into an area where there is a lot of demand. And so when we look at like Goodwill or we look at TechWorks of Gaston, they're specializing in helping folks come into those new skill sets so that they can find new employment and being very successful with that. So yes, we focus a lot on K through 12, but we also try to go through the timeline of a tech worker and help provide programs to support that. There are actually a number of great programs in both nonprofit as well as for-profit that are helping folks. If they made the non-employable major choice in school, or, quite frankly, they realized that what they chose isn't where their passion is, or perhaps isn't where their natural talent is. So companies like Tech Talent South is a for-profit company headquartered here. However, over time, they've partnered with folks like Goodwill and other groups to provide that nonprofit training program. They get involved with sponsorships from companies who are actively seeking technology workers. And in a lot of cases, students are able to go on call it a fully funded sponsorship for their training, and also have an opportunity for internship and ultimately employment with the companies who are, actively seeking technology workers. So there's a lot of avenues. There's also a couple of groups that we hadn't talked about. Red Ventures has a nonprofit called Road to Hire, and they specialize in working with CMS high school graduates that don't have college as an opportunity, but have great skill set or interest in moving into technology roles. And so they provide training, and then ultimately they're working with not only with Red Ventures, but also Novant and Bank of America and some of the other large employers in town to help generate some of that needed technology workspace. There's another group called Creating IT Futures that's part of CompTIA. It's the nonprofit branch of CompTIA, and they specialize in the same thing. And there's many more examples that kind of fall into that. Maybe it's a recruiting company with a nonprofit affiliation doing the same type of thing. So there's lots of different avenues, depending on where a student, to Chris's point in his personal story, college tuition was not an opportunity being afforded him. So he had to take a non-traditional route, involving working, being able to pay for it, hopefully getting scholarships due to his ability. And so, it's important that we help folks understand all the different kinds of avenues that are available. There's not just one path, and If I look at my own story, there weren't STEM camps or STEAM camps when I was growing up, and my college degree was in business. But I came into the workplace in the late 70s at a time when commercial business applications were just being released. And so they needed people who understood the business or the transactional side of things. Technology is all brand new. They're going to have to teach it to folks anyway. Depending on where you're coming into the workplace, the factors are always going to be different, but there's lots of opportunities and lots of ways to move into it. The key things that I think any of the programs that we try to sponsor they are supporting intellectual curiosity, they're supporting creative thinking, and they're supporting developing passions in folks. And quite frankly, the other thing is helping students understand that there's lots of different job opportunities. It's not just that you can go, have to go be a developer. I went through enough college programming classes to know that development was not going to be my chosen path, but they needed folks who understood and did application implementations. They needed, so I spent my life early on doing ERP implementations. And so being at, let's call it the front end of the screen, not the back end, either from an engineering infrastructure or from a development perspective. So there's lots of different avenues to pursue. So it's, helping students understand that there are more than one kind of job opportunity in technology.
SIM also engaged in many programs that help students to advance, including the non-traditional students. In some cases, if you can, you may want to consider volunteering with this program to help even more students.
For the last 10 years, we've been helping to support, from an educational perspective, nonprofits that are oriented to either the K through 12 type programs, the STEM camps, the education, any of the scholarships that we have in place, endowed scholarships typically. One of the factors that we put in there is that we want the student to be from the Charlotte region. Part of that logic is, if a student's attending, Johnson C. Smith or UNCC or CPCC, Winthrop, any of the ones that we've established scholarships with at this point, the likelihood of them staying in the local area is much better than if a student from, the Northeast, for example. One of the other programs that we've had the opportunity to create a scholarship for most recently involves a program that CPCC, Central Piedmont Community College, and UNCC with the CCI program have developed, and it's called the 49er Bridge. So those folks who perhaps coming out of high school, their best opportunity for education is to start in the community college environment. There's now a program so that there's scholarships available so that as they're graduating their associate program or their college transfer program at CPCC, there's a scholarship opportunity that bridges them over into UNCC. So helping to create their, I didn't make a short-term decision, but the opportunity for a longer term in terms of their educational opportunity. The community colleges have great programs, and they're helping both with those students who have the opportunity to be college destined, as well as, we talked earlier about adults who had, or students who had, created a major that was not associated with technology and realized that, there's some great opportunities for them career-wise or interest-wise in pursuing technology. So they've done a lot with their Computer Institute group to create those, either non-traditional students learning technology or providing an alternative path for those students who realize that they may have, miscalculated in terms of what they, the philosophy major who understands that now that there's not really a whole lot of opportunities in that career field if they don't want to go into teaching or some of the longer term, but just coming out with an undergrad, they're probably going to be your barista at this point, unless they get additional training and they, create other opportunities. And when you think about the foundation of learning being that creative thinking process, that intellectual curiosity, whatever your major was, I'm a believer that college is providing a curing opportunity, curing like you might cure meat for later eating. It's you learn thinking, you learn hopefully longer term planning and consideration than immediate gratification. It's really about an opportunity to mature in life and expand your horizons. And if you end up with a great degree and great career opportunities, excellent. Some of them may not have made the most, perhaps the best employment decisions relative to their major. And, it's about helping them figure that out too. We also have several of our groups, the nonprofits, for example, App University and Innovate Tech Charlotte, that are also providing an additional dimension. They're focusing on helping to support underrepresented communities and the kids in those communities, and providing them an alternative to going out and being on the street corner. And so when we look at things, there's an aspect to, that just general community improvement and helping create opportunity for somebody to have a good alternative for their life choices. And that's another important aspect of what this helps to do with some of the different programs that we have.
I would think that if you're listening to this podcast and you are a young person who's trying to figure out where you need to go in life, or you think that there's no path for you, there are literally thousands of different paths for you. You just have to find the one that works for you. And STEM education can really help you on the technology side to get there. There is a great future in tomorrow. If you're listening to this and you're someone who's able to support STEM through either financially or through volunteer efforts, know that the work that you put in today could yield exponential growth for the leaders of tomorrow. And I think we all have a shared responsibility in fostering tomorrow.
I'd just like to say that as I am stepping into retirement and subsequently stepping off of a lot of my nonprofit engagement, at least here in the Charlotte area, I am forever grateful for all of the folks that I met through not only SIM in the Charlotte chapter, but also the various STEM organizations. It's been my pleasure to get to know the folks, to have the opportunity to, through the chapter, make some impact and help their organizations to flourish, hopefully. And I wish the chapter, the community, and all the nonprofit organizations the best of luck in the future. I think we're on to a really great thing. So thank you.
We talk a lot about what SIM is doing with STEM in this one. You may want to check out the past episode, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, on the benefits of joining SIM and their network opportunities. But listening to this interview made me think about what leadership is about again. The most effective leadership comes when the leaders care much about the cause. SIM has done a lot about STEM, and I believe it is really because they care. May I suggest you watch out for our next episode where we capture the personal side of the story from this interview. You probably would be as motivated as I am and wanting to do more for the community that we all shared. We also want to use this special opportunity to recognize Elizabeth for creating these opportunities and give her the best wishes of a happy retirement. That's all for this episode. Remember to check out our other stories and keep promoting STEM.
This podcast is produced by Queen City Robotics Alliance with the support of Charlotte Area STEM Societies. Queen City Robotics Alliance, also known as QCRA, is a 501c3 nonprofit organization whose mission is to nurture the future workforce by providing practical, hands-on STEM experiences for area youth. QCRA is home for several high school and middle school robotics teams, where students learn how to run their team like running a business. Together, students develop outreach programs to spread STEM knowledge and training to encourage kids from all backgrounds to discover how to reach their full potential in STEM fields. QCRA is sustained by volunteers and sponsors like you, and we invite you to join us to help build a better future for all children in our community. Visit our website at queencityrobotics.org to learn more.